the country's going to have to change in big ways for us to get out of this healthy. I have a feeling that's not going to happen because we have a calcified political system, and we also have an obsequious news media, including independent news media. There is no one who is as outraged as they should be about this bill in the progressive media besides me. No one. I've seen people describe this vote on this bill, the CARES Act, that screws America for a generation. I've seen the most lefty progressive news shows describe it as a bad vote. It's not a bad vote. So here let me just do this real quick, Dylan, and sit with me. Bernie Sanders tweeted this out, and this is what's annoying me. Stuff like this, my stomach turns. He says $33.4 billion. That's how much the wealth of Jeff Bezos and 6 other billionaires increased last week while millions of Americans were filing for unemployment. Our society cannot sustain itself when so few have so much while so many have so little. And he tweeted that out on April 15th. So I retweeted and said, well, then why did you just vote to give those same people $4.2 trillion while getting nothing in return for workers and families but crumbs? Because you, as always, bent your knee to the party and abandoned your movement when you had real power to do something. And there's no excuse for that. And Joey says, but Bernie, you voted to bail out the rich guys and screw the little guys. You did that, Bernie. You did that. For once, take some responsibility for your own actions. And Bernie Sanders will not ever take responsibility for that vote, nor will the progressive media hold his feet to the fire and make him take responsibility for it, because there's always a bigger boogeyman. Somehow Donald Trump is worse than what Bernie Sanders and the Democrats just did to America. And I'm here to tell you he is not. What Bernie Sanders and the AOC and all the Democrats just did to America is just as bad as anything Trump has ever done. And I want to get your take on this. Zach Carter from the HuffPo tweeted this out. He says the almost pervasive refusal to hold either Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren accountable for supporting the worst bill in 25 years is a great example of what is broken on the American left. He goes on to say, there really are not any institutions that matter on the left, only heroic individuals who the left expect to wield a sword of justice on its behalf. It's why people are relitigating a 2020 primary in which every faction to the left of Joe Biden got wiped out, instead of thinking about building a broader coalition. If the left were serious about power, the response when its leaders fail would not be, well, my hero is still better than yours. There would be career consequences and some effort by leading left-wing institutions to grapple with the disaster. Any response to that?
I think it's all true. I think that what I really realized, because I came at this as a financial executive, financial reporter, and financial expert as I entered the political conversation back in 2009. What became very apparent to me as I spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C., in individual meetings with these different human beings that are senators and Congress people for this country, both sides of the aisle, it became staggeringly obvious that the biggest blind spot that exists in the American political class, and I would say even both sides, but it's very notable on the left, but it exists on both sides, is a complete and utter profound ignorance to finance, currency, and the banking system. And if you choose to be utterly ignorant to the world of finance, currency, and the banking system, which is the foundational, the single most determinative variable for the fate of any country, city, economy, state, county, anything, household. If you choose to be completely ignorant to that, as opposed to having a very clear understanding and a set of policies around it that you advocate for, you are not qualified to be a leader. But because the left has entirely consumed itself with whether you're willing to advocate for gender or social identity as its raison d'etre, indifferent to the totality of finance, banking, and currency. What you end up with is the theatrics while doing whatever the people that actually do understand finance, currency, and banking want. And the only people in the political process that are advocating for what finance, banking, and the currency world wants are the people that are the CEOs of the banks and the finance world, who manipulate the idiots in the political universe to do whatever they want, like use a biological crisis to facilitate a larger wealth transfer faster than it was done in 2008 and 9, in a way that the so-called heroes that defend the left are going to vote for it.
Yeah, I know. Let me just, Sean King jumped in on that thread, and he says to him, a lot of truth here. As you may know, it's our work. We try very hard to analyze and care about every law so that we grow and improve and change from it. Matt Stoller responds by saying, even acknowledging that there was a bill, that Warren and Bernie voted for it, and that they had the ability not to do that is a vast improvement of most of the left. And then Sean King says virtually the entire Democratic apparatus folded with that damn bill and with the entire response to the pandemic. Yes. That's
a function if you have a group of people that are fundamentally ignorant on the determinative variable, which is currency, banking, and the Federal Reserve. So there is no store of intellect or policy that exists in the left to advocate on that subject. So that puts the politicians that are the so-called heroes in a position where they have no foundation upon which to advocate. And so they're utterly useless. Yeah, they're just a device.
Yeah, utterly useless is how I would describe the progressives in Congress. I would describe them as utterly useless. Utterly. Because, again...
Although you could argue that they're actually viciously damaging because they create the illusion of value, which then squanders the energy that would be used to create real value, as a vampire sucks the blood of a victim.
Yeah, in fact,
I mean, you could go beyond utterly useless to that of a vampire.
Right.
That the left is actually a much bigger vampire than the right.
Well, I would say
the right knows what they believe. The right knows what they believe, and they advocate for it.
Yes.
Right or wrong.
Right.
Like whether you like it or not, there's an agenda that they understand and they're advancing because they believe in it. Outside of identity politics, what's the Agenda on the left?
There is no agenda. There is no agenda.
There's platitudes about healthcare and a Green New Deal.
Exactly. There's platitudes and not a willingness
that are used as a vampire to make people believe that there's somebody in the room who might actually lead. And then when it comes down to it, who's the one that's talking about UBI and Medicare for all? Who's even flirting with it? Donald Trump.
I know.
Not because it's political, but because in a crisis, it's rational to consider. In fact, in my opinion, it should be automatic. But at the very least, it's rational to consider, regardless of your politics. And then you have Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are the ones who are fighting universal basic income or even a universal basic payment.
I know it's so. So I know this isn't the.
You may have to join up with the Josh Hawleys.
Don't you find it utterly like it's ridiculous, and it's like it's insulting to my intelligence, and but it's also like hilarious. It's a joke at this point for people to advocate voting for Joe Biden as if he's any kind of remedy for the problems we face right now. And I just want to slap everyone silly who says that, or just, but I don't. Or does it drive? I guess you're over this kind of emotion with politics.
I'm over it because I expect the system to yield the most offensive possible outcome.
So, but you can.
And so when it yields them, and what could be more offensive than a senile old man being put up against a vicious and cruel man? I mean, Donald Trump should be the easiest person in the world to defeat politically.
Yes.
I mean, really.
And
only the Democrats are capable of first putting up Hillary Clinton, and then of all the choices,
a demented.
They pick the person who literally cannot hold a stream of thought for longer than 2 or 3 sentences.
This is them just, we could just, a warm body, any warm body, and we'll get them to vote for him because Trump. So this is the Pied Piper theory coming to its ultimate fruition. This is that we don't even have to have a guy who's mentally cognizant to beat Donald Trump. We're going to literally, a guy who could be on life support, we're going to nominate him, and we're going to tell people that if you don't vote for him, you're somehow an evil person. And, which is what, I don't know, I just couldn't.
Not only that, we're going to have Barack Obama intervene before Super Tuesday to give Klobuchar and Buttigieg the shoulder tap.
Yeah.
To make sure that Biden gets the job.
Hey, this is the part where I tell you where our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then I would tell you to go join our premium, but nobody has a fucking job. So why don't you just enjoy the video?